football only, okay, which I know you've heard some things about Hugh Freeze, but way back in high school. But we don't have those confirmed. So I would just like to talk about Hugh Freeze versus Lane Kiffin and
Confirmed
the
is relative. Confirmed is relative, by the way. I know some people because it was
okay.
in my city.
I'm not doubting you, but let's just deal with what we know. Oh, well, what we can confirm. All right, so why are we talking about Hugh Freeze and Lane Kiffin? You want to start with the Hugh Freeze, and we don't have to play the clip. We did that yesterday. But what did Hugh Freeze do, which is pretty much the worst thing you can do as a head coach within reason? I mean, the worst thing would be to hit a player like Butch Jones did. But within reason, I think the worst thing is to throw your players under the bus. And how did Hugh Freeze do that? And what was the response from his former player? And then we'll get to Lane Kiffin's response.
Yeah. So, and by the way, he didn't throw his players under the bus in the way that most coaches do, because the code for throwing players under the bus has always been, well, we just didn't execute. That's always been the way to throw a player under the bus, isn't it, Dave? When they just say we just didn't execute. Hugh Freeze took it a step further. He said, we got to find a quarterback that doesn't throw the ball to the other guy. Totally just threw his quarterbacks under the bus. By the way, you know who could have found that quarterback? Hugh Freeze. There's such thing as a transfer portal. But anyways, Bo Wallace, who was the quarterback that helped Hugh Freeze's rise to stardom at Ole Miss, was there when he beat Ole Miss in 2014. On Saturday night, just lit into Hugh Freeze and insisted that he wasn't drunk. But honestly, even if he was, I wouldn't care because it was still relevant. And so basically said that implied Hugh Freeze was pressuring him to take every injection possible to get out there and play, no matter how hurt he was getting, that Hugh Freeze would never take any blame, that no one's ever paying attention to all the times quarterbacks throw interceptions under him, and that they're the ones who never get blamed for it. Just, I mean, went off. And it really speaks to a red flag of, by the way, we kind of knew this about Hugh Freeze for this reason. And I'm just going to tell one quick side note that for those who don't remember, when Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss were under investigation, that's when Hugh Freeze leaked the fake story that these were violations committed by Houston Nutt. And he leaked that fake story because he wanted his players to sign with his program. And then once it came out that story was a lie, signing day will have been over and they would be stuck at Ole Miss anyway. So that's the type of person Hugh Freeze is. Houston Nutt got mad about it, filed a suit back. In discovery during that suit, that's when it came out that Hugh Freeze was making calls to prostitutes every other day. Okay, that's how that all went down. But it all started because Hugh Freeze tried to trick his recruiting class to being trapped in his Ole Miss signing period pre-transfer portal. So that's the backdrop of all of that and why he's a terrible person and doesn't care about his players.
Okay, backdrop of, well, also the backdrop is that he paid players left and right.
Oh, and left and right.
Yeah, the Laramie Tunsil thing was the most bizarre one. Remember, he was the one that showed up at the draft, and they had a clip of him smoking a gas mask bong, which I'm not sure where you get those, but for your needs around that situation, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com, use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. But listen, there was the Treadwell guy, the receiver that had a teammate on the team. There was Robert Kimdichi's brother was on the team. I would call that deft recruiting, really smart recruiting, DEFT. I would call that really smart recruiting by Hugh Freeze. But the Laramie Tunsil was the one that made no sense. Why would you go there instead of Alabama? That's going to make you an NFL superstar. So that's when I knew because I was deeply embedded in recruiting at the time that Pastor Hugh, as every other coach liked to call him, was passing cash around. I'll go ahead and tell you, I know you've heard some stuff about, Lane Kiffin in a car accident. I know you've heard those things. We all have. But we know for a fact Hugh Freeze wasn't smart enough to get a burner phone when he was calling women that he shouldn't. So I'm here to tell you that when it comes to morality, bank on it. And And we'll go to our poll question. Lane Kiffin should be your choice. Bank on It brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Caleb, what say you, sir? Bank on it. I say Lane Kiffin is a far better person than Hugh Freeze. Would you agree or disagree?
Significantly agree. And I wanted to get to what Lane Kiffin said about Hugh Freeze in a second, but just from the start, significantly agree. Lane Kiffin, for all of his flaws, and he's got many, is not known for being a snake towards his players. Now, there have been, I'm just going to throw a name out. I know this, Dave. You were there. Josh McNeil, the old center of Tennessee, called Lane Kiffin a snake. But I more feel like Josh McNeil was bitter about losing his starting job, honestly.
Well,
his senior year.
Josh McNeil was a very emotional person. You could have caught him at the right time and got him to say anything. When he got caught in a bedroom with 3 girls, instead of just not talking to the media and allowing himself to be thought of as the coolest guy in the world, he decided to force his way through Tennessee Sports Information and give a crying press conference, which unfortunately I was interviewing somebody else, and that was before video and all that stuff, so I didn't get to see it. But I wish I would have, and I've listened to the recording, and it's golden. But yeah, I'm not taking what Josh McNeil has to say. I'm going to take the fact that Lane Kiffin told Eric Berry, dude, you need to cruise. Now, it's not because Lane was leaving. It's because he thought Eric Berry, this pre-NIL, was ready to play in the NFL and shouldn't risk himself. I believe that. Do you believe that?
Yeah, Lane Kiffin. By the way, Lane Kiffin was shocked when he got the USC offer, guys. It was that day he was like 10th on the list. I don't think he ever thought the call was coming.
Yes. I mean, I thought surely Jack Del Rio would take it, but nevertheless, he also saved Jonathan Crompton's career by going all in on Jonathan. That was a huge gamble.
And he stuck his neck out there.
Yeah, and it almost blew up in his face because Jonathan wasn't good until the second half of the season. So as far as a guy, yeah, I will take Lane Kiffin 100 times over 100 when it comes to Hugh Freeze.
And here's what Lane Kiffin said, and this is why this all comes back to us, guys, because this is what he said the other day. Lane Kiffin had been asked about, he met with reporters ahead of the Ole Miss's SEC opener, and he asked about his relationship with Jackson Dart. And he talked about Dart's character and how great he is with kids and his nephew. And then he went out of his way to share his overall approach to quarterbacks and how he teaches them. And his quote, he says, I think it pays off when you have relationships and quarterbacks trust you too. And he goes, you can go back to Matt Corral when he threw 6 interceptions. And before I even got to the media, I sit down with him and tell him that we've got to do a better job calling plays and I have to coach better. And don't worry because we've got your back. And he said, I think that goes a long way. And it goes a long ways with kids in recruiting, knowing what they're going to get when they get here with relationships and that they can trust us to have their back. I mean, Dave, I got to be honest with you. He said that specifically because of what Hugh Freeze said the day before.
No question. That is not even a question about it. Yes, he knows how to troll people, especially, well, he knows how to troll people for fun, but he also knows how to troll people pragmatically. So don't think that Ole Miss and Auburn, which are about 3 hours apart from each other, maybe 4 at the most, don't think that that's not a recruiting move. It certainly is. And the smart thing is, what I thought was so bright about the way Lane did it is he did it in social media. Because you know what Trooper Taylor told me, and I would argue that he's one of Tennessee's best recruiters in the modern era of college football. Do you know what he told me?
What did he say?
He said, you never go into a living room and say another team's name. So you don't go into Bobby Joe, the 5-star quarterback's living room, and in front of their parents say, Hugh Freeze, did you hear what he said? He's going to throw you under the bus. Troop said, well, if you talk about somebody else, you're already down 14-0. So now if they bring it up, you can address it. but you never go in. So now he's got it out there, but he doesn't have to go in and sound like Sour Grapes Lane because he didn't get the Auburn job or any other thing that you could throw out there. Rich said it was really hard to vote in this one. That's pretty good.
So basically what you're saying is it's the recruiting is the opposite of political ads, where when you watch political ads, all you hear is how bad the other side is. You don't hear anything about the guy that they want you to vote for them.
Very true.
Yeah, so Lane, I could see that. I could also see that maybe Lane Kiffin was the dude that probably did some negative recruiting when he first got to Tennessee. Come on, Dave, let's be honest. What do you think Lane Kiffin was doing in some of those living rooms? You don't think he was taking shots at Urban Meyer, being like, Urban Meyer is losing control of the program in Florida. He's not going to be there in a year.
Yeah. Derek Trite never mentioned the other guy's name to the girl you like. Young men, same concept. Yeah, I agree with that.